When the CEO goes undercover, the fight to save her company. Chapter 1. The First Signs of Decay. Evelyn Grant sat at the head of the polished walnut table, fingers steepled, as the hum of corporate lingo filled the conference room. She barely noticed the panoramic view of Chicago's skyline through the glass walls of EverValue's headquarters. The city was bustling as always, but today it felt like a distant world compared to the storm brewing inside these walls. Sales are holding steady, but the customer satisfaction ratings in the Midwest region have been troubling, murmured Cole Andrews, the regional manager, flipping through a glossy presentation. Evelyn narrowed her eyes. Define troubling, Cole. He hesitated before answering. The Chicago branch had been at the bottom for 3 consecutive months. Evelyn's pulse quickened. EverValue wasn't just another retail giant. It was her company, a place she had poured decades into building with values of affordability, community, and respect. But lately, complaints have been piling up, mostly from senior customers. Ignored staff, rushed checkouts, a cold and unwelcoming environment. It was more than just numbers. It was a crack in the foundation she had worked so hard to build. What's the issue with the Chicago branch? Evelyn asked. Cole shrugged. Growing pains. New hires adjusting. Older customers can be demanding. Evelyn's jaw clenched. She didn't like the dismissiveness in his tone. I want a detailed review of staff performance and customer interactions. Cole nodded, but looked relieved, thinking the conversation was over. Evelyn wasn't done. And I'll go see it myself. He blinked. You mean, like, send a supervisor? No, Evelyn replied firmly. I'm going undercover. Gasps rippled around the room. She had done this once, years ago, before becoming CEO, working at various levels to understand her company inside and out. It had shaped her leadership, and now she needed that raw insight again. Chapter 2. Behind the Counter. The next morning, Evelyn became Maggie, a fresh new hire at the Chicago branch. She tugged at the stiff, ill-fitting EverValue uniform, pinned a name tag to her chest, and walked through the store's sliding doors. The atmosphere was heavy. Employees moved briskly, heads down like soldiers on a battlefield. There was no laughter, no chatter, just an industrial rhythm of beeps from the registers. Late on your first day? A gruff voice barked. Evelyn turned to face a towering man with steel-gray eyes. His name tag read Tom Riker, store manager. He didn't offer a handshake. I'm on time, Evelyn replied coolly. Tom barely glanced at her. Read the rules. Follow them. No exceptions. He shoved a printed schedule into her hand. Bold letters screamed out the store's oppressive policies. No small talk. No unnecessary help to customers. Meet transaction quotas or lose hours. The warning was clear. This wasn't a store. It was a machine, and Tom Riker was its ruthless operator. Evelyn kept her cool, but her gut twisted as she watched a teenage employee arrive 5 minutes late, only to be publicly berated by Tom and have her hours cut for the following week. No empathy, no understanding, just control through fear. Chapter 3. Breaking the Rules. Evelyn settled at a register, scanning items for customers while silently observing. An elderly woman struggled at the self-checkout, clearly confused by the system. Excuse me, sweetheart, the woman said softly. I can't get this to work. Evelyn stepped forward to help, but before she could, a young cashier nearby rolled his eyes. Just hit the button, lady. Evelyn's jaw clenched as she gently guided the woman through the process. This wasn't just poor service, it was inhumane. Careful, whispered a fellow cashier named Grace, tugging on Evelyn's sleeve. Tom doesn't like it when we waste time helping. Evelyn frowned. But she needed. Doesn't matter. He'll cut your hours. Grace's words confirmed Evelyn's fears. This wasn't an isolated issue. It was a culture of fear. Later that shift, Evelyn spotted a silver-haired man struggling to reach a can of soup on a high shelf. She instinctively moved to help, only to feel a firm grip on her elbow. Tom, clock's ticking, Maggie, he growled. We don't have time for hand-holding. Evelyn wanted to scream, but she bit her tongue. She needed more proof. Chapter 4. The System Unveiled. Days passed, each one heavier than the last. Evelyn watched Tom rule through humiliation and intimidation. Good employees were punished for being kind. Workers had their hours slashed as retaliation for simple acts of decency. The breaking point came when Evelyn witnessed Tom scream at an elderly man who accidentally knocked over a display. "We're not your damn caretakers. Clean it up," Tom bellowed. Evelyn felt her fists clench. This was beyond poor management. This was a toxic system. But Tom wasn't the real villain. Late one night, Evelyn snuck into the back office and accessed the employee complaint database. Her stomach dropped. Every complaint against Tom, every instance of misconduct, had been deleted. Wiped clean. The trail led straight to Brandon Keller, the regional director. He was protecting Tom, ensuring that complaints never reached corporate. Chapter 5. The Fight for the Company. Evelyn gathered evidence, recordings of Tom's outbursts, proof of deleted complaints, testimonials from employees too scared to speak out. Her final test was bold. She staged an incident, enlisting the help of Grace. A customer, played by a hired actor, would pretend to forget his wallet, triggering Tom's worst instincts. It worked. Tom publicly berated the man, drawing attention from both customers and employees. Phones came out. People recorded. And then Evelyn stepped forward, pulled off her Maggie name tag, and revealed the truth. "I'm Evelyn Grant, CEO of EverValue," she announced. Gasps filled the store. "And this ends today." Tom's face drained of color as security escorted him out. But Evelyn wasn't done. At corporate headquarters, she confronted Brandon Keller. Armed with irrefutable evidence, she demanded his resignation. When he refused, she went to the board. The showdown was brutal. Some executives supported her. Others saw her as a liability for stirring the pot. But Evelyn was relentless. "Fix it," she demanded, slamming down the files of erased complaints. "Or I'll make sure the media knows everything." Faced with public backlash, the board caved. Keller was ousted, along with several other corrupt managers. Evelyn overhauled the complaint system, ensuring employees could report issues anonymously and without fear. Chapter 6. Rebuilding. Months later, Evelyn returned to the Chicago branch. The atmosphere had changed. Employees smiled. Customers lingered without feeling rushed. Grace was now assistant manager, and the culture of fear had been replaced by one of respect. Evelyn smiled as she watched a young employee help an elderly man find his way through the store, without worrying about wasting time. The fight wasn't over. Changing a corporate giant was like turning a cargo ship, slow and full of resistance. But the tide had shifted, and Evelyn Grant wasn't going to stop now. Epilogue. The question remains. Sometimes the fight for justice starts in the places we least expect. Evelyn risked everything to fix a broken system. Would you?